Hey everyone, this is Father Warner here. It's really a hot summer's day on a Sunday. My reflection is for tomorrow, that is Monday of the first week of Lent. And if you look at your text, it's taken from Leviticus chapter 19 verses 1 and 2 and then again verses 11 and 18. And the Gospel is taken from Matthew chapter 25 verses 31 to 46. Matthew chapter 25 is the last of the 5 great teachings of Matthew. Right away, I want to suggest that whenever you listen to these teachings, you spend some time reading the text, because the texts fuse beautifully together in the season of Lent. If you look at the first reading taken from Leviticus chapter 19 verse 1 to 2, it begins with, "You shall be holy as I, your Lord, your God, am holy." And when I look at that text, I think, my gosh, that's a tall demand. This demand, "you shall be holy," appears several times in the book of Leviticus. And you begin to feel at once a sense of inadequacy, because you become aware of your own sinfulness. You have to be as holy as God is. And even Proverbs 24 verse 16 tells us that a righteous man fails 7 times a day, even a righteous man. So where does that leave you and me? Now, holiness, ironically, is not the only demand that our text of the first reading from Leviticus 19 makes. In fact, if you look carefully at this text, it mirrors another book entirely. It mirrors Exodus chapter 20, in which you find the 10 Commandments. So you'll more or less find all the elements of the 10 Commandments, including elements that speak of how we should be respectful to even those who are physically disabled. So not only a call to holiness, but also a call to follow the 10 Commandments. And if you see in Leviticus chapter 17 to 27 of Leviticus is called the Holiness Code. Now, when you think of holiness, you and I begin to think of personal sanctification. I have to be personally clean. I have to be without sin. But if you look at the text from Leviticus today, chapter 19, that's not the entire definition of holiness, because God calls us not only to be holy in the sanctuary, which is very easy. A lot of us look and act very holy in God's house, but that holiness has to be taken right out into the world. So, is it good enough for me to be good in order to get to heaven? And the answer is no. You see, heaven is holy. God is holy. And what is good is not good enough for heaven. God is pushing us to a level of holiness. So we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be holy? Now, for the Jews, holiness was a matter of ritual purity. They would stress a lot of ritual purity. Let me give you an example. Look at Luke chapter 10, the narrative of the Good Samaritan. We are told that a priest and a Levite pass the man who was left for dead. Now, where is the Levite and the priest going? They are on their way to Jerusalem. They have ritually purified themselves, may have even lived a very holy life. But if they touch this man, whom we are told is almost left for dead, then by touching a dead person, they would become ritually unclean, and they would rather go into the temple ritually pure than to have polluted themselves. But in doing that, they have left a man to die. Now, look at our text of today, chapter 19, verse 18. It's a very, very important line. It's the highlight of our first reading, because in that you will find those words, "Love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus took this text from Leviticus 19. This was the text that Jesus took, and he joined it to Deuteronomy 6:5, when the young man asked him, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus says, "Love God with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your might." And then he quotes this text, "Love your neighbor as yourself." So holiness is a matter of loving God and loving our neighbor. Now the question we will ask is therefore, who is my neighbor? For the Jews in the Old Testament, their neighbor was another Jew. But Jesus, in Luke chapter 10, in the same story, the same narrative of the Good Samaritan, expanded our neighborhood. He expanded it. Who is my neighbor? Asked the person. And Jesus went on to tell them the parable of the Good Samaritan. So, the Gospel of today, taken from Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 46, uses those words, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, and they can be anybody. They don't have to be another Christian, but whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, that you do unto me. Mother Teresa said, it's the gospel in 5 words. You do it unto me. The gospel in 5 words. Finally, I want to go back to Leviticus chapter 19, verses 1 and 2, where God tells us, you shall be holy. There is a command and there is a promise in those words. A command, you shall be holy. But there's also a promise. You shall be holy. I will make you holy if only you submit to me. So Lent is a time when we follow the command, but we also allow ourselves to live that promise. I hope you like these teachings. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share this with one another. I must tell you that I read your comments. I've been taking the time to read and respond. From time to time, we get somebody who has left the Catholic Church and passes a disparaging comment. Don't be upset when you see it, don't respond to it. These are people who are generally trying to bait you. Having said that, I want to say a word of appreciation. Today I had Nathan and Kevin and their parents, Della, I didn't get the father's name, who came to visit me. And I was deeply touched by that visit, especially with their son Nathan. There was something about this boy. And I want to say thank you. I know many of you want to come and visit me. I kind of put it off generally because of health, but I'm opening myself up to short and brief visits. Anybody who is in Goa would like to come and say hello. Yes, I would like that very much. Bye for now. I'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave your comments.